Okay, so this video is here to explain the 20th nakshatra out of the 27 nakshatras, known as Purva Ashada nakshatra. This is a nakshatra that falls in between 13.20 degrees of Sagittarius all the way up to 26.40 degrees of Sagittarius. The planet that rules and controls this nakshatra is Venus. The deity that's associated with this nakshatra is the water goddess known as Apis. The symbolism for this nakshatra is a fan, a basket, and an elephant tusk. And the Shakti of this nakshatra is to invigorate or energize. And the sexual animal associated with this nakshatra is a male monkey. So this will be a long in-depth video. And we're going to start off with showing how how spiritual this nakshatra is. Think about it. This nakshatra falls in the sign of Sagittarius, which is naturally ruled by Jupiter. And the planet that rules and controls this nakshatra in particular is Venus, who's also known as Shukracharya. Jupiter's name, deity associated with it, is Brihaspati, the deity that rules Pushya nakshatra. So you got two gurus, two divine sages, together essentially in one nakshatra. You have Brihaspati, who is the advisor, the counselor, the guru of the gods, the devas. And then you have Shukracharya, Venus, who has the ability to revive the dead and is the advisor and guru of the Asuras, divine class of beings who essentially oppose the gods. And let's start off with the history of these two. What is their little brief history? Well, apparently, Shukracharya, the deity who's associated with Venus, his father is Brigu. Brigu is the son of Brahma, the creative god, one of the major three Trinity gods. And I believe Brigu is known as like this Maharishi, this top-notch Rishi, this top-notch sage, or whatever. And let's go jump to Brihaspati, which I detail his birth in Pushya, but his father's name is Angrius, or Angrius, something like that. This whose name means like fire, this fire god, this fire sage. You know, he don't got no fire abilities, that's my knowledge. His name just means like from fire or whatever. Brihaspati was born from a ritual, a boom. They did this fire ritual, and they asked Agni, the fire god, to produce a child of great intelligence and all that stuff. And Brihaspati was born and was associated with the planet Jupiter. It is stated that Shukracharya and Brihaspati, they both learned spiritual stuff and scriptural texts underneath Brihaspati's father, Angrius. But favoritism was shown to Brihaspati over Shukracharya. Naturally, because that's his son. But Shukracharya was stated to be a quicker, faster, better learner than Brihaspati early on. And then when Brihaspati was elevated to like this advisor of the gods and all that, I believe that Shukracharya, Venus, just left and decided to be the advisor to the Asuras, the gods that defy the gods and stuff. So we see that from that story, Purva Ashada natives, they might be very smart, very intelligent, but they might not do good in formal education. Like, for some reason, they might face obstacles when it comes to being in school or college. I didn't understand that at first when I would read books. When I would read books on Purva Ashada, and some of them would say that these natives might experience troubles in their, formative education. But learning that story of Shukracharya, the planet, the deity the planet that rules this specific nakshatra, it makes sense that these people might experience obstacles due to people having favoritism, even though you might be more smarter and educated in some type of field. So that's one thing that you might see with people in Purva Ashada, prominent planets in Purva Ashada. Another thing with people who got a bunch of planets in Purva Ashada, like their ascendant lord, the sun, the moon, or their rising sign. These people do not stay down for long. They won't stay down for long, whether it be in in a spiritual, emotional sense or whatever. They won't stay down for long. Because think about it. One of the symbolism is an elephant tusk. What do we know about elephant tusk? An elephant tusk regrows. If an elephant breaks its tusk, it will regrow. They only don't regrow is when the root of the tusk is damaged. Then it won't grow. But if it's the root isn't damaged, then it'll continue to grow. So in that sense, we see that it's hard for you to keep a Purva Ashada native down. And then just naturally, the association of Venus being the nakshatra lord, what do we know about the planet Venus astronomically? To be honest, I don't know how to explain this in proper English astronomically because I'm not that versed myself when it comes to the actual astronomy of the planets. But y'all can go look it up and Google it to help me, stop stumbling. Apparently Venus is one of the planets, maybe one of the only planets that sort of they say vanishes. It dips below the horizon and vanishes. It just sort of got this association or theme with it just appearing in the sky and vanishing in the sky based upon how it moves and orbits. And on a more birth chart astrological perspective, what are the two houses that Venus rules? It rules the second house and it rules the seventh house. The second house, when I looked up and learned about the second house, one of the alternative translations for the second house is also known as the gates of Hades. Why? Because that is the first house that it sort of deals with a time of day where it's really dark outside. Because because the houses can sort of be used as a clock. The rising sign, the first house is sort of a time of the day where it's 7 a.m. or whatever. But the second house is the beginning to the descension of darkness. That's an area of the chart where it begins to get dark. The second house will probably be 6 a.m., 5 a.m. So we see that it gets dark from a time of day perspective when you have planets in the second house. You can go look at it yourself. Use the pressure on your phone, or see if you know anyone who whose birth chart, in their birth chart, their sun is in their second house. They was likely born very early in the day, 6 a.m., 5 a.m., maybe even 4 a.m., but essentially an early part of the day where the sun is still not really out. So you see from that perspective with the second house, which is one of the houses that Venus originally rules, you see that element of darkness. And then the seventh house is where you see the sun set, because the first house is the rising and the seventh house is the descendant. Something is setting. The sun is setting. The sun is dying. It's becoming dark. So you see this association with the underworld, this association with darkness, this association of dying and reappearing with Venus. What else do we know about Venus? That's enough from the astronomy, but astrologically, mythologically, like I said, Shukracharya went and prayed to Shiva in order to learn how to revive people. And that is something that not even Brihaspati knows. Only Shukracharya knows how to revive people from the dead and whatever and stuff. At least apparently that's what's stated. So from that essence, it's hard to keep these people down. And even when you learn about the deity Apis, the deity that rules this nakshatra, as I'll get into, you'll see that she is someone that is hard to keep down also. But yeah, essentially by seeing that this is a sign, Sagittarius, which is naturally ruled by Jupiter, and Venus, who is associated with Shukracharya, this guru, we see that this is the height of intelligence, spiritual intelligence mainly. And Also, these make excellent teachers. Why do I say that? Aside from, Venus and Jupiter, the reason it makes excellent teachers is because if you notice, the Venus nakshatras fall in the middle of fire signs. Bharani nakshatra is in the middle of Aries, which is ruled by Venus. Purva, yeah, Purva Falguni falls in the middle of Aries. It falls in the middle of Leo. That's a Venus ruled nakshatra. And then you got the last Venus ruled nakshatra, which is Sagittarius and Purva Ashada. What are the fire signs known as, or the fire houses? They are known as dharma. The first house, the fifth house, the ninth house are the houses known as dharma. Dharma means like a righteous, noble way of living, a way that, like a righteous, moral, noble way of living that sort of aligns with like your belief system, that sort of aligns with the nature of the universe or whoever you believe in. And Venus being in the middle, the core of these dharma fire signs, shows that Venus is a planet that is the true significator of dharma. It's a planet that can really lead you and guide you towards a spiritual path, in a sense. And with this being the last nakshatra that Venus rules, we see that this nakshatra is like the height of guiding someone on a spiritual path, in a sense, or being a teacher and a counselor, or this is like the height of Venus's teaching abilities. I mean, Venus is really exalted in Revati nakshatra, I believe, but aside from his exaltation, this nakshatra sort of shows that this is a place where Venus naturally sort of feels maybe very strong at, in a sense, or just simply just shows you that Venus is one that can really guide you and lead you and teach you. And much in that sense, Purva Ashada natives can really guide you and teach you and be a counselor and just be great teachers, Also, these people can be great prolific writers, outstanding authors and outstanding speakers. Why do I say that? Let's go back to the elephant tusk, which is one of the symbols for this nakshatra. You can associate the elephant tusk that associate with the elephant with Lord Ganesha. Lord Ganesha, it is stated that he broke his elephant tusk and used it as a pen to write and detail the great events of the war known as the Mahabharata. Some great Indian story, mythological story or war of a great battle that took place. It is stated that he recorded the events of this war, of this story. So that is one of the reasons why you can see that this is a nakshatra that can produce great writers. And also because of the sexual animal being a male monkey. The male monkey can be associated with the deity known as Hanuman. Hanuman is stated to be an incarnation of Shiva, and his spiritual father is stated to be Vayu, who is the deity that rules Swati Nakshatra in Libra. But Hanuman was a devotee of Lord Ram and assisted Lord Ram, who was the seventh incarnation of Vishnu. And it is stated that Hanuman wrote his own version of another great epic story tale known as the Ramana. The Ramana, which is supposed to be, I believe, a story, a book, a tale that details the events of the Lord Ram incarnation as he went and experienced exile and rescued his wife and stuff. But apparently, there was a sage known as Valmiki, I believe, who wrote his own version and story and tale of the great adventures of Lord Ram, known as the Ramana. And this sage, he read Hanuman's version of it and said it was wonderful, it was splendid, the whole world should know about this. And he felt sad that, wow, my telling of these events pale in comparison to yours. Hanuman, seeing the sage crying, at how he felt that his own version of how he felt his own version of the story paled in comparison to Hanuman's. So Hanuman went and took his writing, his tablet, his stone tablet of the story, and tossed it away to the ocean. And the sage was surprised at Hanuman's actions, and said that when I die, I will be reborn as one of your devotees, and I will teach people your greatness. So we see that Hanuman is someone who had is someone who's very loyal and devoted, and has great literary skills, but he's also humble in a sense, as he didn't care to gain worldly fame and recognition for his great skills at his literature. But anyway, what you can take from that is that with the Purva Ashada people, they can have great authorship skills, and they might also be great speakers. You can really see that 3-9 axis in the birth chart be activated. The third house, which is skills with the hands and writing, and the ninth house, which is teaching and teaching and stuff, spreading your knowledge and wisdom. You can really see both of those axes activated with Purva Ashada names. They can be great teachers, great counselors, great authors, great writers. And now let's move on to the water goddess, the deity that rules this nakshatra, Apis. And this is where things are going to get real long-winded. So we got to start with the little bit that we do know about the water goddess. It is stated that mythologically, one day, and this is sort of repetitive of some things that I say in Jyeshta nakshatra, it is stated that the water goddess Apis was captured by the dragon, or the naga, whatever you want to call it, known as Ritra. And he captured her because he liked her. He was mesmerized by her. He shot his shot at her. She turned him down. And what do most creepy men do? Or men who can't take rejection, they just respond negatively. He ended up capturing her, holding her hostage. And in holding the water goddess hostage, he sort of essentially took all the water from the universe or the world or whatever. He was causing a drought by capturing the water goddess. And at this time, the king of the gods was known as Varuna, the deity who rules Shatapashash nakshatra in Aquarius, which I'll get to. He was the original ruler of the gods before Indra. And he was also known as an Asura. And apparently Asura, it just means very divine, a divine of class beings. But it's more commonly known today as divine beings who oppose the gods, so like demons or whatever. Why does he have that title of Asura, which is sort of synonymous with demons? I don't know, but he's sort of known as one, even though he was considered originally one of the king of the gods, of the devas and stuff. Anyway, so with him, he comes to find out that the water goddess is captured, and he decides to do nothing. And Indra, who is the rain god, he's upset. He wants to go and fight this dragon and free Apis. He's the rain god, so he sort of needs the water in essence. He got a relationship with the water and needs it so that, he can get rid of droughts. And he wants to go save Apis, short and simple. But Varuna was like, you don't need to do nothing. The water goddess is strong. She'll free herself. And Agni, the fire god, the deity who rules Kritika nakshatra, the nakshatra that falls between Aries and Taurus, he sided with Varuna. He was like, yeah, Indra, relax. Indra tried to fight the dragon anyway, Ritra, and he ended up losing. But after much pleading Indra did much pleading with Varuna they need to take action, he finally was able to convince Varuna. And long story short, which is still going to be a long story, Indra ends up defeating the dragon with a thunderbolt. But he ends up crafting this thunderbolt by using the bones of a dead sage known as Dadhichi, who I mentioned yet again in Jyesha Nakshatra, the last nakshatra of Scorpio, and who I mentioned in Ashwini Nakshatra, the first nakshatra of Aries. He takes the bones of this sage, and through some magical occult rays, he's able to turn it into his weapon, the Thunderbolt, and use it to destroy and kill the dragon. After the aftermath of this whole thing, Indra ends up complaining to the other gods, saying, why didn't he do nothing? Why did it take him so long to take action to free the water goddess? Did he show partiality? Because you see, Varuna, he is a god. He was the king of the gods at this time, and he was responsible for a lot of things. He was responsible for, watching over the gods, and he was also responsible for judging people. He ruled the underworld before Yama did. He judged souls and decided where did they go. So he had a big responsibility. And one of the goals of a judge is to be impartial, to not be biased in your decision making. So with Ritra, this dragon, this Naga, being known as an Asura, and with Varuna also being known as a Asura, Indra played that to his advantage and was speaking to other deities and was like, did he take Ritra's side because they were both Asuras? Did he show partiality and stuff? So he got all the gods on his side and convinced them that, hey, Indra should be the god. He should be the king of us. Not you, Varuna. You're not fit. Varuna didn't fight. He wasn't going to stoop to Indra's level of just being petty and stuff. So he submitted. And you know what happened? Indra ends up banishing Varuna to be banished to the oceans. He forces him to be married to Apis. And this is why also Apis' alternative name is known as Varuni, because Varuna name is Varuna. And he was forced and banished to the seas. So he's essentially sort of like the husband of Apis in a sense. Because, yeah, he was forced to just be banished there because he didn't protect her. So that's basically the end of that little story. So what can we take from this story? Well, apparently this nakshatra has an affiliation with these deities: Varuna, Indra, Agni, and Soma. Agni rules Kritika, Indra rules Jyesha Nakshatra, Soma rules Mrigashira, and Varuna rules Shittabhishash Nakshatra. Why do I say this nakshatra has association with all of them? One reason is because apparently in Rig Veda, some scriptural spiritual texts, Apis is mentioned, and these other deities are sort of mentioned. And when you learn about the story of her that I just told y'all, you sort of see them all mentioned. All except Soma, but I'm about to explain why the Soma, whether it be the moon god or the actual elixir, is mentioned. So, obviously, I just told you Varuna's whole role and him being connected with Apis. Because he was banished, he was sent to her to be married as punishment for, not taking action swiftly enough to save her. So what about Soma, the deity who rules Mrigashira, the moon spirit, or the actual drink, the elixir? With that, we see Soma means like nourishing. I believe that's what the name translates into. And this is elixir that sort of nourishes the gods and invigorates them and makes them strong and immortal and all that stuff. Water is sort of the same way. And with any with any liquor or with any drink, any fluid, any substance, whatever, all fluids, one of the first main ingredients is like water. So we see that the element of water, or just the water goddess in general, can be just as valuable and as nourishing as this elixir of the gods, Soma itself. Indra is known to be a great politician, great political skills and tactics. And we see that this nakshatra shares those traits of Indra, of Jyesha Nakshatra, at being very skilled with the tongue, very invigorating, great at inciting wars. That's one of the characteristics of this nakshatra. The ability to, incite wars and being very great at arguments and very calculative. That's one of the traits of this nakshatra. And we see that with Indra, turning everyone against Varuna and just being known as just great at inciting wars and arguments and turning people against each other. We see that Purva Ashada adopts some of those traits from Indra. And then Agni, the fire god, the god who also was alongside Varuna and believed that who believed that Indra should wait to take action because Apis, she's strong and she'll free herself eventually, and the dragon won't be able to keep her down forever. Well, for him, you got to dig a little bit deeper to see what the hell is his association with this water goddess. Why is he mentioned in this, this prayer or whatever to Apis? His explanation is a little bit more scientific versus mythical. So think about fire. The element or nature of fire is to transform things. Transform things or separate things. Especially since you see that the fire god Agni rules Kritika, which is the semblance of a knife and to separate things and inflict pain on things. What is the relationship between fire and water? Well, if you boil water, the water can turn into steam. And that steam essentially, take this with a grain of salt. I'm not no meteorologist, but the way I take it, if you boil water, it turns into steam. The steam goes into the sky, into the clouds. And the clouds, and it goes into the clouds. And then lightning, which is sort of like a form of fire. Because electricity is sort of like a form of fire, a form of heat. Fire can be started from electricity. We see that fire separates the rain from the clouds. So, what do we see? How do I translate this into this story about Apis being captured and then freed? We see that initially, Agni didn't want to, he agreed with Varuna and didn't believe that Indra should take action right away because Apis would free herself. So in one part, we see that he sided with her with the water being captured. So we see at one point he sides with the water being captured, with it being separated. And what does fire do? Fire can sort of evaporate water and transform it into steam, separating from the pot of boiling water. So in one essence, fire can separate water and sort of trap it in the same way that Vritra did. But eventually, that water will get released by that same fire. Because, I don't know how does rain start, but, when it thunders and lightnings, rain usually accompanies it. And, but in the mythological story, we see that the fire used to free Apis from the water dragon, the fire used to free Apis from the dragon was thunder and lightning, which is Indra's thunderbolt, which is like fire. You see it all the time in Avatar: The Last Airbender. The firebender is able to shoot out lightning. You can cause fires in your house from electricity. So they're synonymous, electricity and fire. So you see that element. You see how that plays out. Agni sided, like I said, Agni sided with Apis being captured. And then eventually he turns around, says she needs to be freed. And she was freed in the form of a thunderbolt, which is like fire. So that's how you see the association with Kritika, Agni, in this nakshatra. What else do you see of this nakshatra? You see that this nakshatra is associated with the great ability of bringing people together. Because look at all the deities that came together in regards to Apis, Varuna, Indra, and Agni. These are the four deities that was mentioned. Yeah, making sure Varuna, Indra, Agni, three deities that was predominantly mentioned in this mythological story in regards to her being freed. So Purva Ashada people, they have the ability to bring powerful people together. Just the ability to unite people, you know? And a great writer, a great political figure, a great speaker can unite people. You know, you can see maybe like some civil rights activists come out of Purva Ashada nakshatra, like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, or whatever race you are, and whoever is like your leader that speaks for you. People like that who can invigorate the crowd, make armies and hundreds and thousands of people want to follow them, can be seen from this. A pastor, a priest, someone who invigorates the people to want to follow them off a mountain, off a cliff. These are those type of people. They're great at uniting people and bringing them together. And this sort of goes back to me saying how you can't keep a Purva Ashada native down for long. Because the gods, they were so confident in the water goddess Apis' abilities to free herself that they eventually, they initially didn't want to intervene. That's, oh, she's strong. She can free herself. So there's this sense of, these people not being able to stay down for long, and they just invigorate. They can just give off confidence, or they can give off strength, not physical strength. They can just appear to look like great at what they do intellectually, at what they learn, and what they teach. These people, they can also have very prized and valuable knowledge and information. Why do I say that? One is because of the elephant tusk. Elephants are hunted and killed for their elephant tusk. Something very valuable to people for some reason. And Apis, she was someone who was, captured by this dragon. So he attracted her. She pulled him in. And, he captured her. Water is very valuable. So Apis and water is very alluring. It's very seducing. It's very valuable. So a lot of people could really appreciate and value the knowledge and information a Purva Ashada native has to offer. And they can either, you can either give it to them, or people will try to steal your work or take it from you by force. But like I said, you have the ability to connect with people in high positions of power, or invigorate people, connect with people, and energize the masses. Because what is the Shakti of this nakshatra that I told y'all already? It's the power to invigorate or energize. That's what these people have the ability to do. To invigorate and energize their audience with their knowledge and information and wisdom. What else do we know about water? Think of like a river. A river with a flowing stream of water. What is that water doing in that stream, in that river? It's constantly moving forward, isn't it? What's in the river? Trash, rocks, and obstacles. But no matter what's in that river, the water is constantly moving forward. Nothing stops the water. The water is always moving forward despite what obstacles is in its path. That's sort of how Purva Ashada is. They're always moving forward. You can't stop that river. You can't stop the rain, as that song that y'all might be familiar with if y'all understand my reference, which I don't feel like explaining. But water and river always keeps moving forward and stuff. That's sort of like the energy of Apis. That's sort of like the energy of this nakshatra. You can't keep them down. What else do we know about water? Water is like very spiritual indeed. Now I gotta look at my notes to make sure I don't butcher this. Water represents like impermanence. It represents like nirvana. What is impermanence? It just shows that nothing is still. It shows that everything is in constant change. Everything is in constant motion. And nirvana, it represents like bliss, heaven, realizing the interconnectedness, the interdependence of everything. It represents this bliss of knowing and seeing the beauty of everything, and realizing that everything is connected, and that everything needs everything, and that everything is essentially one. And when I was reading some Buddhist books or whatever, I made sure to, take this quote down that either I read or that I sort of created in my mind. But it goes like this: The waves do not exist outside the water. The water understands that it is one with the body of water and that it is non-separate. Therefore, it is experiencing non-self. The waves in the water practice impermanence as the water ebbs and flows. The ocean itself is nirvana and is an embodiment of the free dharma cells. So yeah, that was some Buddhist stuff. But, what that just means is that, I don't know. I wish I could explain this better. But everything is one. In a spiritual sense, everything is one. And water is great at bringing people together. That's one thing I forgot to mention. Like, think about beaches. That sounds like I said bitches. But think about beaches and stuff. People go at beaches and stuff to hang out and party and have fun. People might have houses near the beach, near the water, so that, they might have a beautiful scene or just consume and drink water. And like I said, in the spiritual sense, everybody is connected to one another. Everything is connected to one another. That would be another video for another day, but all of us need elements and stuff outside of ourselves to support one another. But water in the ocean is just one body of water. It's one body of substance. It's one. The water doesn't look at itself as separate from anything. The water just knows that it's water. This is simple but deep. I'm gonna stop trying to explain it so I don't confuse y'all and just spend like 50 minutes getting into this deep rant. But water represents oneness. In another sense with water is that water teaches. You gotta sort of look at your actions as like water. Because think about it. If you're in the water, whatever, every action you make creates a ripple. And those ripples and huge movements in the water can turn into tsunamis and hurricanes and storms and kill a bunch of people and stuff. So think of your actions like that. Realize that for every action you make, there will always be a ripple for your action. There will always be a cause and effect for your action. So be conscious of the ripples that you make in your own life. Be conscious of the ripples that you make in your own environment. Make positive ripples. Don't be rash. You move rashly and hastily in life. And what happens in water? You make big splashes and puddles. And what happens on a dramatic scale? You make these huge waves and storms and tsunamis. And your actions, your hastiness can end up harming hundreds of people or a bunch of people, like a storm, like a tsunami. So, like I said, be as conscious of your actions as if, you was a person standing in the middle of an ocean and you're capable of making hurricanes and tsunamis and stuff. Be conscious of it. Think of your actions like that, because this is how water sort of teaches us that everything is one and everything is connected. You might not think that your small, insignificant actions can harm and hurt somebody, but eventually, with you repeatedly doing this seemingly insignificant action, it can have a great catastrophic effect. Those ripples can turn into a storm. And I don't know, one example of this could be like pollution. Not taking care of the water in the oceans. Animals, the food that we eat, they drink water. So if our water is dirty and polluted, and our animals is drinking the water, and we're eating the animals for food, like cows and stuff, who do you think is going to get polluted? We are. So you see that domino effect? We think that just because we litter in the ocean, how the hell that's going to affect me? But okay, you got to look at the domino effect. You got to see where that ripple is going. You litter in that ocean, that pollution is going to travel somewhere to somebody where they're going to drink it. An animal might drink it. A cow might drink it. That cow drinks the water. And then that cow ends up getting killed and we use it for milk and burgers and stuff. And then that same person who ended up polluting and putting stuff in the ocean, he goes to McDonald's and gets a burger from that same cow that drank that dirty water. And now you're eating that pollution because that cow wasn't healthy. So you see that interconnectedness? Water represents that interconnectedness, how everything is one, how every action causes a ripple, and those ripples can come back and hurt us, and they can create huge storms and wipe out everybody. So be conscious of your actions, realize that we are all connected, and just realize that your actions affect people outside yourself, even if you are too ignorant to see it. That is what water teaches us. This is how spiritual and deep this nakshatra of Purva Ashada in Sagittarius can get. And water is easily contaminated. You know, water, our mind is like water. It can easily be contaminated. It can easily be manipulated. Water can take on any form that you put it into. Any container that you put it into, it can take on any form. And water can be, like I said, easily contaminated. Water is the second most important element after air. I tell you the importance of air in Swati Nakshatra with the air god, Vayu. But now I talk about the water goddess, Apis. And when you think about it, water is the second most important element after air. Everything that we consume, the first ingredient of it is damn near water. From your hair products, from your toothpaste, from the ingredients in your food, from the production of damn near everything. They all require, some way, somehow, water. Water is applied some way. Oil, hand sanitizer. If you look at the ingredients, the first ingredient is probably going to say water, aqua. So water is almost like the foundation of everything. Water is like the foundation of life. And that shows you how important water is. You know, you can go a long time without eating food, but you're not going to live too long if you don't drink some water, if you don't hydrate yourself. The body is composed of, I don't know, mostly water. I don't know the exact percentage, but we ourselves are composed of mostly water, aren't we? So water is very important. Like I said, our mind is sort of like water. It can be easily manipulated. It can be easily contaminated. So if you was to treat your mind like a good meal, like a good dish, you want to fill it with good ingredients, right? You want to put good ingredients in the cake that you're making, in the food that you're making. So we should try to do the same thing with our mind, with our consciousness, with our awareness. We should try to only put good things in us, because our mind can be so easily manipulated and stuff. What else do I gotta say about this nakshatra? I believe that is essentially it in regards to this nakshatra. Like I said, these people can be very calculative, very intelligent. They can maybe love to live near the water, have a job near the water. If it's associated with the 10th floor, they could probably want to have some professional career involving teaching and, you know, counseling, or a profession that's near the water that deals with the water. If it's your 4th house, 4th lord, you might want to live near the water. Or if like associated with the 10th house, you might want to be on a ship, the Navy, the Marine. You might not do good going to college, going to, you know, school. You might face some obstacles. You might not be their definition of smart, but you are smart. You know, you're very intelligent in your own way. You might just not perform well in a formative, you know, standard the way that they want you to. And these people do not stay down for long. Because water goddess Apis, she broke herself out. An elephant tusk always regrows unless it's damaged from the root. And water in a river is always flowing. It's always moving forward. Despite what obstacles is thrown at its way, it always moves forward. And this is a very spiritual nakshatra, because I just told you it is. And because of its connection with Brihaspati, the deity of Jupiter, and it's associated with Shukracharya, the deity of Venus, who is the planet that rules this nakshatra. And it's great at uniting and bringing people together. And this nakshatra also translates into former invincible or former victory. These people feel invincible and feels like they can win a war before it already begins with their intelligence. So keep that in mind too. And I believe that is all that I have to say in regards to this nakshatra. Yeah, that's all I have to say in regards to this nakshatra. This nakshatra can be associated with, worshiping women and female goddesses and all that good stuff. But I hope that this video gave you great clarity and insight on the spiritual significance, the ability and its ability to invigorate and energize people. Also, these people might have dental issues because of that elephant tusk. This nakshatra is more so stated to be associated with the left tusk, because Ganesha has a right tusk. That's more so associated with the next nakshatra, Ashadha. And this nakshatra is more so associated with the left tusk, the broken tusk that Ganesha has. But because, like I said, elephants are hunted for their tusks, these people too could end up having dental issues. But I hope this gave you great clarity and insight. And let me know what you think in the comment sections. Like and subscribe to the video. If you want to go book a consultation with me, let me tear your birth chart apart, give you some insight and clarity on yourself if you're unsure about your chart. Go look at the About Me section on my YouTube page, and I got a link. Thank you for watching.